I'm going to be honest. For most of my life, I was either neutral or negative regarding having children. Now, don't get me wrong, I've always loved children, but for many years, I didn't think motherhood was for me, much to the chagrin of my own mother. I married later than many do, and when we got pregnant in my 40s, I was actually thrilled. During pregnancy was the best I've felt in my life, and I believed I was ready for motherhood. I had been a stepmom for 2 years and loved it. How different could this possibly be? Full-time, complete responsibility for another human couldn't be that different, right? In my Birthing from Within class, while I was pregnant, we talked about the labyrinth of childbirth. A woman goes through labor and eventually gives birth as she enters a labyrinth, the exiting of which is her journey into motherhood. The journey inward prepares her for birth, while the journey out prepares her for motherhood. Emerging from the labyrinth takes a lot more time than entering does, months in comparison to hours. I found it to be a cool analogy and one I could really relate to. My experience with the labyrinth felt real. I had a dream just before the contractions started that I was on a journey with my husband and a small, unidentifiable person. We jumped off a cliff into some frigid water. I was holding both their hands and quickly found my footing and led them out of the water. We were in a dark cave and tried to catch a train that was whizzing past, but it was too fast and we couldn't catch it. I then woke up. After my son was born, it was as if I was in a deep tunnel, which I guess extreme sleep deprivation will feel like, where time felt like that whizzing train while simultaneously feeling like it had slowed down. I felt so isolated in spite of the support of family and friends. I would say I got lost a few times, maybe turned around. There were times when I wanted to go back, even when I knew that was impossible. He was and is so loud. Sleep deprivation made it difficult to function on some days, and I had to find my own way out of the labyrinth because no one else could tell me how to become the mother I am meant to be for this particular person. I couldn't find a person or any self-help information that seemed effective for his needs. I frequently felt like I was moving along in darkness, while sometimes there was pale light. Sometimes I was just tired and frustrated beyond what I ever imagined possible, and there was still this small person who needed me, and I persisted for him. I still do. I can remember when I finally felt like I had stepped out of the labyrinth. He was around 9 months old, and I was able to emerge into life again. It was freeing in a way, to no longer feel the tunnel around me. It was as if a fog had lifted and I could see light again. Yet, it was unfamiliar too. I was unfamiliar. No longer this independent woman, I now had the charge of this small person who couldn't be left alone and didn't want to be. I would never be the same person I was prior to entering the labyrinth in the wee hours of that Wednesday morning in 2014, and I have needed to become reacquainted with this new version of myself. Nearly 4 years later, I'm still working on that acquaintance. Just yesterday morning, I was reminded of this. Before I was a mother, I prided myself on timeliness, and frequently, I was early for appointments. Yesterday morning, when we all met to practice today's service, I was late due to taking care of my son's immediate needs. And they always come at just the right time. I continue to feel judgment for these changes in my ability to be on time. Motherhood has tested me beyond my limits. It has given me powers I didn't know I had, including super fast reflexes, heightened emotions, and a superhuman ability to be open to the ear-piercing noise of a human experiencing a pain he can't verbalize, when my instinct is to run away and hide. People have said that it feels like a part of your body has been taken off and is running around on its own. I can relate to this. His toddling around on new, unsure legs was a nightmare for me. I still become anxious when he runs, in spite of the fact that he has great balance. Being a mother has been, by far, the most challenging transition for me. And it has caused the greatest amount of soul-searching, self-doubt, limit testing, and compromising I've ever had to do. I walked into it with my eyes open, and I never could have imagined how hard it is on every level. I don't always like it, and I do love it.